In this lecture, we will cover the features Revolve Boss and Revolve Cut. We will use those to create the following models. In addition, of course, we will use some of the features we learned earlier. You can get the two drawings from the download section. Before we start, let's explain what we mean by Revolve Boss and Revolve Cut. Starting with Revolve Boss, with this we mean adding materials by revolving a shape around an axis. So we can go from the 2D sketch on the left to the 3D model on the right. Note on the left, we have a shape, which is a rectangle, and a revolution axis. Revolving that rectangle around the revolution axis produces the cylinder we see on the right. Revolve Cut is the opposite of Revolve Boss. Here, we are removing materials by revolving a shape around an axis. With Revolve Cut, we can go from the 2D sketch on the left to that slotted object on the right. Again, note the shape and the revolution axis on the left. So now, let's go ahead and start creating our models. We will start by creating the ball. Notice that the ball is basically a revolved D shape. So let's go ahead and create that D shape. I'm going to select the front plane, and then I'm going to use the arc command, and I will draw the outer shape of the D. So here is an outer shape of the D, and then I'm going to close it with a line. So now we have our basic shape. If we revolve this D shape around this revolution axis, we should get a ball. So let's go ahead and dimension this first. From the drawing, we have the diameter as 10 inches. Note that here we're measuring the radius, so the radius would be 5 inches. Our sketch is still not fully defined, so let's see what's missing. Okay, we need to restrain that line. We want that line to be coincident with the origin, which is the same as the center of the arc. So we're going to click on the line, Control, click on the origin, and have that coincident. Now we have a fully defined sketch. So now we're going to go and start applying the Revolve feature. So we're going to Features, and we're going to click on the Revolve Boss feature. So click on that, and here you're going to see a field asking you to specify the axis of revolution. We want that to be this line here, so we're going to click on it, and now you get a preview of what our end result will be like, which is a ball. Let's explore this other window here. It says direction 1, and if you notice there is an arrow here. This is what is meant by direction 1, meaning that this D shape will start from the plane and start revolving from that direction, and the revolution would be 360 degrees, which is specified in the other window. If we decrease that 360, you're going to see that we're going to get a partial of a sphere. We want that to be a full revolution, so we're going to have it as 360, and then we're going to click OK. Now we have a ball. So let's go ahead and start creating our second model. So I'm going to start a new part. Notice in the drawing, the dimensions we have are in millimeters. So we're going to change the measurement of this document to millimeters before we do anything. To create this model, we are going to follow the following plan. First, we'll create a cylinder using the Revolve Boss feature, and then we're going to create that slotted revolution using the Revolve cut feature, and then we're going to make that rectangular hole using the extrude cut feature. So let's start with the first step. We're going to select the front plane again, and we're going to draw a rectangle. So here's a rectangle. Notice that the diameter of the cylinder is about 200 millimeters. So we'll specify this as 100, since this rectangle represents half the cylinder. The height of the cylinder is 200, so we're going to have that as 200. And this fully defines our sketch. So again, we're going back to features. We're going to select the Revolve boss feature. In the axis of revolution, we're going to select this line here. We want that as 360. So we're going to click OK. Now we have done our first step, which is to create the cylinder. Now we will start creating that slot using the Revolve cut feature. Note that that slot is basically a square revolved around the center of the cylinder. So we're going to go and draw a square. Here, if you look at the base planes, notice that we can either use the front plane or the right plane. It doesn't really make a difference which one to use. We cannot use the top plane because it's down at the bottom. So we will select the right plane. Click on the right plane, sketch, go normal. Now let's go ahead and sketch our square. So we're going to rectangle command. That's our square. We're going to have this as 30 millimeters. We're going to have the other parts equal to it. And then we're going to draw the axis of revolution. So here's the axis of revolution. We're going to have it from the origin to the top. Notice that we used a center line or a construction line because we're only having that to guide our revolution, nothing else. So let's go ahead and define this. Notice that the center of this square is 100 millimeters from the top. Also, it's adjacent to the side of the cylinder. So first, let's make it adjacent to the side. So we're going to click on this side and then click Control, click on the side of the cylinder and have them collinear. Now we have to constrain this movement, top-bottom movement. So we're going to have another center line, and we're going to have that at the center of the square. So from the midpoint here to the other midpoint. Notice from the drawing, this center line we just created is 100 millimeters from the top. So we're going to Smart Dimension, click in the center line, click on the top, and have that as 100 millimeters. And now our sketch is fully defined. So we're going to go to Features. This time we're going to select the Revolve Cut feature. So click on that. In the axis of revolution, we're going to select the center line we created. So click on the center line, and now you can see a preview of the cut we're going to create. Again, we're going to have that at 360 degrees. However, you can change that as needed from your design. So we're going to return that to 360 and then click OK. Now we have done our second step, which is to create the slot. So let's finish by creating that rectangular hole. Again, we're going back to using the base planes we have. It's the same thing with the cut revolve. We can use either the front plane or the right plane. So let's select the front plane. And now we're going to draw a rectangle. We're going to dimension the rectangle to be 100 this side and 30 millimeters this side. The distance from the top of the cylinder to the rectangle is about 20, so we're going to have that as 20. And now we have to restrain this movement, the side movement of the rectangle. Again, we're going to do another trick with the center line, so I'm going to go to the center line. So I'm going to have the center line starting from the midpoint of this bottom side and then continues to the midpoint of the cylinder. And then I can restrain this center line to be vertical. And notice when we do that, we also restrained the rectangle. So we have a fully defined sketch. Let's go ahead and apply a feature. This time we're going to use the extruded cut feature. So click on that. We want the hole to be through all. So we're going to the drop down menu and use through all. Notice that we only have one side going through all. So we're going back to the drop down menu and you will see another option that says through all hyphen both. Both indicates both sides of the rectangle. If you click on it, you will see that the preview changes to tell you now you're cutting through all in both sides. So click OK and we are done creating our model.